Known in history as a politician who loved the Amtrak and rose to take the most powerful seat on the planet in politics, becoming the President of the United States. Stay tuned for more as we share interesting facts about historical figures with fun facts about Joe Biden. Kicking things off with our first fact, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. was born on November 20th, 1942 in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Up next, taking a moment to look at his childhood, Joe Biden came from humble beginnings. He was the oldest of 4 children in a family that didn't have a lot of money but had a lot of love. His father cleaned furnaces for a living and was a used car salesman, while his mother was a homemaker. With our next fact, it is all about Joe overcoming a challenge with speaking. An interesting fact about Joe growing up is he struggled with a childhood stutter, but that didn't stop Joe. In order to improve his speech, he began reciting speeches to improve on how he spoke and planning conversations in advance to become better. Continuing on with this next fact, when going to school, Joe wasn't a fan of the classroom but did love sports. That is where he played football and had a lot of success there on the field, eventually going on to graduate from the University of Delaware and earn a law degree from Syracuse University in New York. Now, of course, we know Joe Biden from his lifetime, it feels like, in politics. Looking back there, at the age of 29, Joe Biden became one of the youngest U.S. senators ever elected at the age of 29. Moving on to this next fact, although Joe was successful in his campaign to become senator, tragedy would strike. That is where, just days before swearing in, his wife and year-old daughter were killed in a car crash. This forced Joe to make some tough decisions because he had his 2 young sons who were also injured in the car crash. At first, Joe didn't want to continue on, but he decided to take the Senate seat where he was sworn in from his son Beau's hospital room in 1973. After losing his first wife, Joe would eventually find love. That is where, in 1975, Joe met a woman named Jill Jacobs. They would later go on to be married at the United Nations Chapel in New York City in 1977, where Jill would be stepmother to Joe's 2 sons, and they would go on to have another daughter named Ashley in 1981. Up next, let's talk about Joe's nickname and his love for the Amtrak train. Joe Biden got the nickname Amtrak Joe from his commuting by rail as a U.S. Senator. In 1987, he even campaigned on a train alongside his family during his first White House bid. Continuing on looking at Joe Biden's political resume, Joe would serve in the U.S. Senate for 36 years until 2009. During his time, Joe did try to run for president but was unsuccessful. Now that is where in 2008, Joe Biden joined the presidential campaign of Barack Obama, running as his vice president. The two would go on to win the election in 2008 and be sworn in on January 20th, 2009, making Joe Biden the 46th vice president, with Barack Obama becoming the first African American and 44th American president in U.S. history. Up next, when you become the vice president, many look to you to become the next president, but that didn't take place early on with Joe. The reason for that is, in 2015, Joe's eldest son, Beau, had died from brain cancer, and at that time, it was too much for Joe to put his family through a presidential campaign, so Joe did not run for president, allowing Hillary Clinton to face Donald Trump in the 2016 election. And with our final fact, it is all about Joe returning to the White House. During a time where the United States and the world dealt with the deadly coronavirus, Joe Biden still campaigned again to become the U.S. president in the 2020 election, facing Donald Trump. Joe would go on to win the election and be sworn in as the 47th President of the United States on January 21st in 2021. And there you have it, with interesting facts from the biography of Joe Biden.